Okay, in this particular part of the lab, we'll talk about vulnerabilities on dependencies that we may have. So for this, I have a repository that I had from before. I'm just going to find the repository quickly. So if I just go into this. Now, it's worthwhile knowing that if you don't have a file that doesn't have an open source, you probably would not find anything on the Dependabot. But I think it was called View, I want to say. Oh, yeah, perfect. So this is a lab that I've maintained with a friend of mine with that. We have intentionally kept it vulnerable. In terms of the libraries that are there that are vulnerable, as you can see, there hasn't been any change done for 6-7 years on this particular repository. That has been intentional. So the purpose of this lab is to show you, I can already see 7 alerts on my security. So if I go on to that, Dependabot Dependabot alerts are enabled. And when I click on Dependabot, I can already see that I have a few high, few moderate vulnerabilities. In total, 7 open. So this is what it would look like. Now, the big question over here, as we were talking, I will be looking at this. As a developer, you have a look at this and you have to understand, okay, hook subject to provoke, what does that really mean? I don't know. But I think what it does mean to me is that this was open 2 months ago. Some of them were open 2 years, 5 years. So this is to show you the fact that 7 years ago when I created the repository, none of these vulnerabilities existed. But 5 years ago, there was one discovered for cross-site scripting on a package in the file that I have for my NPM, which is a web packet bundle analyzer in the package.json file. All of them seem to be on the package.json file. And if I click on any one of them, I can see how I can resolve it, upgrade the web package to fix the Dependabot alert. From going from 3.2.2, I can go from I can change the dependency. And the recommendation is version of prior to are vulnerable. Packages use string without blah, blah, blah. Okay, so patched version is 3.3.2. So instead of going for less than, oh, sorry, was that what it is? Oh, yeah. So I need to go for greater than or equal to 3.2 instead of less than 3.2. So that's if I change that update and if I would put a pull request in, and that should be able to resolve the vulnerability. Now, as you can see, then 4 years later, 2 years later, 5 months ago, 6 years ago, 2 years ago, 2 months ago. So the important parts over here is to do the same thing. So if I go to each vulnerability and identify, okay, am I using this package? It is saying that my package.json file has Hoek, if I pronounce that right, as set to 6.1.3, but there is no patch available. Now, as an organization, I have to make a choice where looks like the vulnerability, the severity is high, and am I someone who's gonna click on this package or JSON file? If I just do a command F, I can already see, yep, I am using it, and I'm using a version 5.0.3, which is vulnerable, and it affects every version which is less than 6.1.3. Now, I can make a choice and go, the issue has been patched in version 9.0.3. I can go all the way there or backport it to 8.5.1. This is obviously a bigger change. For people who are developers here, probably understand it. Now that I have been using version 5 in my, where was it? 5.0.3, moving from 5.0.3 to 8.5.1 or even 9.x, that's a big change. For people who have been in the development background would understand this. So this requires a lot more understanding of what other options are there, how would we change it, would changing the Hoek file, would that affect anything else we have in the code? So there's a lot more that needs to go into this as well as you understand the Dependabot alerts. Now, you probably want to send email notifications for this as well. So you would have email notification, and you can even set a notification for how and where that should be going. Or in terms of, I guess, getting an email rather than going into this every single time. And you can also have these auto triage feature, which is still in beta at the moment. So I'm not going to experiment on this lab, but you can definitely, if by the time you come to this recording, it's already enabled, you may want to give that a shot where Dependabot opens a pull request and ignores false positive and snooze alerts as well. But this is how you would start and investigate any alert that you would get on Dependabot, where after that, as a business, you'll make the call for, are we going to fix this vulnerability, create a pull request, and update the package.json file, which is the vulnerable, which carries the vulnerable open source package, or are we just going to leave it? I'll leave that choice to you, but that is the end of the lab.